Quick midweek update. Yesterday, we shifted the core to Josh Allen, pivoted from Trey McBride to George Kittle, moved our defense to the Chargers, lowered Nico Collins, and cooled on Travis Etienne. After fresh ownership runs, updated projections, and new reporting, here is what we are changing and what we are holding. At quarterback, we are moving our primary build back to Jacoby Brissett at 5,800. Dash rank 100, projected 17, about 11.73% owned, and he draws Tampa Bay, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 26. He is averaging 18 fantasy points per game with a recent run of 22, 27, and 21. So the floor and ceiling combo is exactly what we want at this salary. The news lines up. The Cardinals placed Kyler Murray on injured reserve and named Brissett QB1 for the foreseeable future, as reported this week, and coverage around the franchise's contract dilemma even framed that Murray's injury keeps Brissett in control. One headline summed up the usage with "he just kept throwing." Yesterday, we preferred Allen for raw ceiling, but with Brissett's role locked in, a favorable overall matchup, and concentrated correlation available in Arizona, we are recentering the core on Brissett stacks. For a value quarterback, Riley Leonard at 4,000 is only a large field punt. He faces Houston, who have a tough defense overall with an opponent rank of 1. He has not started 3 games, which makes any projection unreliable, and he is carrying near zero ownership. The only reason to click him is uniqueness and salary relief, but we will not make him a core piece. At running back, we are holding Devon Achane as a core ceiling play, 8,300, dash rank 100, projected 22, and about 49.23% owned against New Orleans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall with an opponent rank of 17. He averages 22 per game, with 25, 44, and 17 in the last 3. Reports said multiple teams called about Achane at the deadline, but Miami kept him, and he even shared his perspective on the team's former general manager. That confirms commitment and sustained usage. Chalk we are willing to eat. We are keeping Tyler Allgeier as a value leverage play. 4,500, projected 7, effectively 0% owned, and he faces the Jets, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 24. He sits at 8 per game with recent 6, 10, and 18. He is direct leverage off Bijan and provides salary flexibility if this tilts run heavy or if red zone series rotate. We are bringing Travis Etienne Jr. back into the core in the flex. 6,500, dash rank 100, projected 14 near zero ownership. And he gets Tennessee, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 28. He is averaging 15 per game with 21, 19, and 16 in his last 3. Recent coverage grouped Etienne among the backs, performing at a high level this season, and the matchup plus the collapsing ownership gives us tournament leverage, while the field gravitates to the higher-priced chalk. At wide receiver, we are elevating Nico Collins back to primary status. 6,700, dash rank 100, projected 16, about 9.03% owned, and he draws Indianapolis, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall with an opponent rank of 16. He is at 15 per game with recent lines of 9, 24, and 26. Media have spotlighted him as a DFS swing piece in prior slates, including a fantasy verdict feature, and the sub-10% tag with this projection works for us. At tight end, we are pivoting back to Trey McBride to pair with Brissett, 7,800, dash rank 100, projected 18, ownership around 13.1%, and the same soft overall matchup with Tampa Bay, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 26. He averages 19 per game with a recent heater of 17, 31, and 31. Coverage noted McBride is cruising this season with 71 catches for 718 yards and 7 touchdowns through 11 weeks, and a separate headline about a fine is just noise compared to his central role. This is the correlation we want with Brissett. For Bill's attachments, if you keep a secondary Josh Allen build from yesterday, Dalton Kincaid at 4,500 projects, 7 at essentially zero ownership, against Pittsburgh, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 27, and Keon Coleman at 3,500 projects, 3 at about 7.2% owned with the same favorable overall matchup. Kincaid is the volume bet, and Coleman is the red zone dart. Joshua Palmer is a deep punt at 3,600 with a 6-point projection and zero ownership in the same matchup, but he carries a questionable tag, so monitor status if you go there. On defense, we are rotating from the Chargers back to the Seahawks. 3,900, dash rank 100, projected 9, ownership around 3.7%, and they face Minnesota, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 30. We are chasing pressure and turnover chances in a favorable overall spot and picking up an ownership discount. For a salary-saving defense, we are swapping yesterday's Titans value to the Raiders at 2,500. Dash rank 65, projected 5, ownership about 5.57%, and they get the Chargers, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 22. This opens builds and still gives us a path to sacks in a volatile game. To summarize changes from yesterday, we are moving the core back to Jacoby Brissett, with Trey McBride based on confirmed QB1 status for Brissett and a favorable overall matchup, holding Devon Achane, promoting Nico Collins. Reinstating Travis Etienne as our primary flex for leverage against one of the worst defenses overall, rotating defense to the Seahawks with the Raiders as the value pivot, and keeping Tyler Allgeier as low-owned leverage. If you keep a Josh Allen alternate, bring him along with Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman, with Joshua Palmer as a late punt only if cleared. The why remains ownership dynamics, reliable projections for players with established roles, and news that supports stability and ceiling paths.